Hey everybody, welcome to the Good Evening Kitties podcast, a Tales from the Crypt review. My name is Melissa, your ghostess with the mostest, and today's episode is Season 3, Episode 3, The Trap. I kind of forgot about this one, but towards the end it kind of kicked in. I was like, oh yeah, I remember some of this. So this one was okay. It's fun, so we'll get into it here. As always, John Kassir does the voice of the Crypt Keeper, and Danny Elfman does the theme song. This episode was directed by Michael J. Fox. I would name his credits, but you know who he is. Michael J. Fox. He was in all kinds of stuff. Family Ties to Back to the Future. So he directed it. The screenplay was by Scott Alexander. It stars Terry Garr, who has also been in movies like Young Frankenstein, Bruno Kirby, who's been in movies such as City Slickers, Bruce McGill, who's been in movies such as Animal House, James Tolkien, who's been in movies such as Top Gun, and Carol Baker, who have been in movies such as Kindergarten Cop. This episode aired June 15th, 1991, and I'm going to go ahead and read the description here on the back of the box. Fake his own death, then collect the life insurance, but a thug's get-rich scheme can go wrong. As it normally does in Tales from the Crypt. This one starts out with the Crypt Keeper, and it's kind of cute because it's like, in this season especially I've noticed he's really getting into costumes more with this season, especially in this one, since it's about life insurance. He's selling insurance. So it says like, there's a sign and it says like, Crypt Keeper Assurances Ltd. And then there's like a cute little quote that says like, life insurance to die for. And you're like, I get it. He's working with a customer right now, he says, and there's a hand sticking out of like a tomb and he's covering up the hand. And he's got a little suit on and talking about going over the guy's coverage or the lady's coverage, whoever's in the tomb. In this part of the crypt, because the crypt seems to be very vast, the way they set stuff up, there's like a face that's like etched into the wall, like a big stone face, and this time he's by this tomb and he's pulling out the book to get the episode started. So it's pretty good, this opening here for the trap. And so it gets started here, and it starts out, it's kind of funny because there's like it starts out like in a kitchen at a house, and there's a radio playing a song, but it's on top of a book that says the original White House cookbook, which is funny because you think maybe the person in this kitchen would be a good cook, but it opens up with Terry Garr, who's playing Irene Paloma, and she's not really making a whole lot of decent food because she's having a good time in the kitchen. It's very cute. She's dancing around, having fun, and having a good time. But she opens up the cabinet and it's just a bunch of cans of Chunk Light tuna. Like that's all that they eat. And she starts making up like a tuna salad while she's dancing around the kitchen having a good time, you know. And it is cute. I do like Terry Garr, so I was like, oh, cool, she's in here. And she's dancing around, having fun. She has her back turned, and there's kind of like some ominous music, like something's going to happen. And then she turns around, and it's her husband, and scares her, and she's like, whoa, and her husband's a piece of work. I believe he's played by Bruce McGill, who to me I always think is the brother of Tyne Daly, because they seem to look alike. It could be Bruno Kirby, one of the two. Either way, I think that he looks like a brother of Tyne Daly, which I'm pretty sure he's not. And he's got like greasy slicked back hair and like a mole on his face and all this stuff. And he just came home early, and his name is Lou Paloma. And he came home early because he was fired from his job at Zemeckis Pizza after 1 week as a driver. And so it kind of scares her because she's like, oh, you know, why are you here? And he's like, yeah, I just got fired. And immediately you can tell he's kind of abusive because he shuts down that fun real quick. It's not even like, you know, he shuts down the music, he shuts down her dancing, and she's immediately like on edge. And he's like, you got something to say about me getting fired? And she's like, no. And then like, I think, you know, he's hit her and things like that. So you're right away, you're like, oh, well, this guy's a jerk, you know, like let's see what's going to happen to him. But she's like, you only had a job for a week, you know, I can't see how you could get fired delivering pizzas. And apparently he got confused like on directions and stuff because, you know, you didn't really have GPS stuff there too much. So after he delivered his pizza, it took him forever to find the car, and he was late because he was lost, and then he got fired. So she had dropped the tuna on the floor and was kind of scooping it up. And Irene's worried, you know, she's like, how are we going to pay for bills or anything? You know, like, what are we going to do? And he's like, don't worry about it, I'll get a job. And she's like, I know, but, you know, we have like a mortgage. And she's like, I could get a job. And he's like, no, you know, you're not going to work. No wife of Lou Paloma is going to go out and work. And then he dumps the tuna back on the floor because he's a jerk and walks away with the beer into the living room where he sits down to watch TV. And she brings him out a tuna sandwich, which I think she just picked the tuna off the floor, which good. She had already picked it off earlier, like, I guess he don't care. And he's, you know, talking like, oh, I'll get us out of this, And there's a phone call, and he doesn't even pick it up. He, like, looks at her like, get the phone. And he could get up. Like, he just sat down with his food, but it's like, It's almost like he's scared to pick it up too because of collectors and stuff like that. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's a jerk. And Irene picks it up, and it is a person looking for money. And so they end up like kind of lying and flubbing, saying that
he mailed it to you.
Get me your husband.
Right, yes.
Listen, sister, we got some big problems, see?
Look, this is bad. He said that they're going to cancel your life insurance policy if he doesn't get a payment from you.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello, Mr. Neff. Lou Paloma here.
So you're gonna pay or what?
Yeah, I'm gonna pay you.
I'm not so sure, see?
Haven't I always?
Why don't you get a job, you bum?
Hey, you can't talk to me like that. This is Lou Paloma you're talking
You
to.
can't talk to me like that. Listen, we
yeah?
own you, mister. We own
Yeah,
you.
well, blow me,
Lock,
pal.
see?
Scumbag!
And then Lou gets this idea, you know, what if we fake my death? Because I think they could only get like 50 grand or something if they cashed out some other policy, but if they got the life insurance policy, it was going to be like $500,000 or something. And so they were like, well, maybe we could figure something out like that. And it just so happens that Lou has a little brother named Billy who works as a coroner at a morgue. And I'm like, isn't that convenient? And he gets this idea of like maybe they could fake his death as like an assault in the house, and then him and Irene, like after they declare his body dead, him and Irene can go take off to like South America or somewhere and lay low for a while and cash in on the money and stay out of the United States and for a long time and just get out of debt. So he calls up his brother, tells him to come over, puts a lot of pressure on him. Apparently Lou is like the golden child between the mother with their mother, which is weird because the other brother is actually like successful. Billy comes over and they start talking about, you know, the plan for it and what they want to do about cashing in this double indemnity policy. And Billy's like, I don't want to do it, man. I don't want to do this. It's gonna, you know, what if I get caught, or like this is gonna ruin my career, and maybe you should borrow some more money off mom or something. And he's like, I've already borrowed enough off mom. And then it's weird because it's like they've also kind of been like conning the mom on the side. Irene calls her Mother Paloma, so every time is Mother Paloma. But apparently, like, he said that, he's like, I'll tell Ma that you ripped off her retirement money if you don't do it. And Billy's like, I did that to help you with money. And he's like, I never saw any of it. So he kind of talks Billy into setting this up. So the next night, or you know, like a couple like nights later, they try to figure out this plan. Billy comes back over, and Irene's like dressed up kind of nice, but looking distraught, and they kind of messed up the house a little bit. They wanted Lou to look dead, so they put this makeup on it, but it looks really bad. Like, it looks like he's, like, trying to become a mime, almost. And even Billy's like, this is not going to work. You have to wipe some of that makeup off. But they're trying to make a plan about it. Like,
oh, this is crazy. This is never going to work.
It'll be okay, Irene. When the police come, I'll take over. All you have to do is remember the story. You came home and you found Lou. As he was dying, he told you he walked in on a burglar. They struggled and the burglar stabbed him. You called me because I'm your brother-in-law and because I'm a doctor. I came over here and I called the police.
which part of me is also like, I really doubt they would let the brother take Lou to the morgue, but he does sweet talk his way into doing it. Anyway, there's also some hints here that maybe Billy and Irene kind of have feelings for each other. Billy's always hated the way that Lou has treated her, and you know, they kind of get close to getting hit on that, but then Lou would walk in, things like that. So they set up the scene here, and they have Lou lay down near the fireplace. Billy has gloves on, he's taken out a knife, and he's kind of ripped up Lou's shirt and dragged it through, and then they put like a bunch of fake blood on it, and fake blood on the knife, and threw the knife to the side, and just kind of like set the scene. And they want to make it look good, and Lou's kind of like, well, maybe if I'm like knocked out a little bit. And so he tells Irene to hit him with the fireplace poker. And I'm like, that's not okay. But she's like, all right. She like kind of whacks him once and he barely flinches, you know. And he's like, come on, hit me like I hit you or whatever. And I'm like, ooh. And Billy's like really pissed off at that. And then he basically is like trying to get her going. So he tells her like, hey, last week, remember when I didn't come home? I was banging your best friend. And she's like, what? You know, and she gets all mad and starts like hitting him. And so while she's hitting him, Billy gets really upset, grabs the poker from her, and beats him to death. At first, they were like, okay, cool, he's unconscious. And then Billy's like, wait, I might have killed him, you know? And so they're like, okay, you know what? They aren't too worried about it. They're like, we're going to just pretend like it's happened the same way. We're just going to set this up as a death, and we'll do the same thing. They call the cops. He knows the cop. Billy does. And so they're talking about it. And he ends up kind of convincing the cop that it's my brother, I want to take the body in and stuff like that and everything, and kind of pushes him off the course a little bit, where I'm still like, I don't think this would be allowed, but all right, I guess because they knew each other, but still, it's like, that's really suspicious. They find the fireplace poker, and it has been like bent, like it is bent. He hit him really hard, and they're hoping that they don't figure it out and trying to throw them off the trail and stuff and say that it was like a burglary and that he was assaulted and killed and things like that. And so that, that goes on. And this part here is kind of weird. Like, so it shoots to the funeral, and there's not a lot of people there at this funeral, which doesn't surprise me the way Lou was. It's Irene, Billy, Mother Paloma, and then that same cop from the investigation. But the way they're setting it up, apparently they're saying that, like, they're going to have Lou cremated afterwards. And Mother Paloma is just, like, so upset.
Oh, my poor Lou, my poor Lou. What have they done to you? What have they done?
Try and control yourself, please.
Don't tell me to control myself. Who killed my baby, my precious Lou? Let go of me. I want to be with my son.
Ma, I'm your son, too.
Don't rub it in.
She's just, like, throwing herself on the casket. They had the casket open for a little bit where he was, faking dead, but then, like, they shut it and he was kind of laughing and, like, he can hear some of it. So he's like, yeah, that's my mom, And Billy's like, but Mom, I'm here too. And she's just like, I don't care. Stop reminding me. And he's like, ugh. Like, she just does not care for him. And Terry Garr's in kind of a sexy black outfit. It's a cute dress, but I just don't know if I'd wear it to a funeral. But because he's being cremated, the way they set this up is kind of strange. Like, they have him just like a small old funeral room, nothing fancy, and some chairs. But then they have the casket on top of these rollers that are going to lead him into the oven that's right in front of them. So it's like immediate in the room that they're doing the funeral at, or the wake. It's like as soon as they say bye, they're just going to like wheel him into the cremation. And I'm like, I don't know if they do that in the same room. I thought that was like if they do, let me know. goodeveningpod@gmail.com. The mother gets a little crazy, and the cop escorts her out because she's like trying to kiss on the body. And really, I think you could figure it out that he's still alive. Like, he would still be warm and stuff, right? But I don't know. I guess because she's hysterical. So the cop escorts her out, and they're going to do like the cremation thing. And so it's left with Irene and Billy, and they end up making out, which is really risky. They're making out here in this room, which I guess was just the cremation room that they just made into a makeshift funeral for cost. But it just seemed weird. But they're making out, and they start like fooling around on top of the casket. And so Lou is in there like, what's going on? Like, what's happening up there and stuff. And they're fooling around on the casket, and they end up kicking the lever to push the cremation in. So they're on top as the casket's moving towards the fires. And I mean, they figure it out because they can feel it. And then they're like, oh my gosh, we should get off this. And Lou is like, hey, it's starting to get hot in here and stuff like that. And at first you're like, maybe they could just let him go in there and then not. But Mother Paloma comes rushing back in because she doesn't want to see her Lou get cremated. Luckily, they get down off the casket just in time. The mom is just really fruit about it because she's running in like, Irene, this is all your fault. Why weren't you home cooking dinner and stuff like that? And it was like, I don't know, all this stuff. We're almost like, stop. And so she comes running in just as they're getting off the casket. The mother starts like getting on top of the casket like she's going to ride it into the cremation. And so they end up stopping the cremation because everyone ran in there. Because technically they could have just let him go in there. I don't know how loud he would have screamed, but like if they wanted to, they could have just done that if no one else would have been in there. I don't know. But they also seemed kind of shocked. Like they were like, oh crap, we don't want him to do that. It cuts later to the morgue. They're toasting in lab beakers, and Lou's getting up, and they're all talking about the plan of what they want to do. So Lou's like in his boxers and half tie, half suit, and he's like, what we should do is, I was thinking, like me and Irene would run off to Rio and hang low for a little while. And then so Irene is kind of like, well, Billy and I were thinking something different. Like maybe you would go off to Rio, maybe get some face work done, change your name. And I'll settle the affairs here. We don't want to make it look suspicious. And I'll get the money together and for some time, and then I'll come and meet you out there. And they kind of talk him into it. And he's like, oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds good. But really, you're like, oh, no, Billy and Irene just want to be together. And so they talk him into it, and he ends up going to Brazil. And so they give him $15,000 to kind of kickstart him going over there and getting some work done on his face so he looks a little different and things like that. So it kicks to Rio. And, it's a nice beachy place. Lou is sitting there in he's getting some drinks at this cabana, and there's like a macaw sitting on the other chair next to him, and he's had some work done on his nose. Like, he's got a bunch of band-aids or like bandages and stuff on it. And the waiter keeps like coming out every night and is doing this whole like, ah, what a beautiful sunset.
Here you are, Senor Smith. Ah, it's another beautiful sunset, is it not?
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice.
And eventually, like, as time goes by, Lou's just like, yeah, I don't care about the stupid sunset. He says, ah, what a beautiful sunset. And so this is where it starts to get a little bit comical. And even while here, though, Lou is still kind of hitting on other women, like he's not going to have a wife, but then he's still mad when she's not there. Because he keeps calling, like he keeps asking for the phone, you know, every couple days, and he calls, and every time he calls, he keeps getting a voicemail that she's not picking up, because he's wanting to call and make sure, you know, things are getting in together, and like, so this whole time she hasn't been calling him. Also, he goes by the name Mr. Smith, and I'm like, okay, that's not suspicious. So time's going by, and it's the same thing. He's still at this place. The guy's giving him drinks, sunset. It's probably, I think it's been like a couple months, because his face is all healed up. He doesn't look too much different to me. I mean, he got the mole removed, and he got like, I think he had kind of a unibrow that he got kind of removed, and his nose looks a little different. So, I mean, he looks a little different, but you can still tell, like, with the voice and stuff that it's him. So this is where it gets a little silly for me, but I guess maybe in this world, he does look a lot different. So he ends up going back to his house to find out what's happening with his wife. He goes to their house, he knocks on it. Irene answers the door, and she's like,
Is there something I can do for you?
Yeah. You can start out by telling me where you've been for 6 months while I was wasting away in Margaritaville.
Excuse me, but I don't think I know what you're talking about. Perhaps you'd like to speak with my husband.
Your husband? I am your husband.
No,
Irene, who is this guy?
I don't know.
Hey, pal, what do you want with my wife?
but they also kind of have this little smirk on their face, like they know what they're talking about. So Billy comes out there, is her husband now, and Lou's like, what is going on? You know, what is happening? And they're like, can we help you? And so it's kind of funny because they're like treating him like they have no idea who he is. I'm pretty sure they do. Maybe some of the other people later because he looks so different, but they definitely know who he is. And Lou's looking around the house and everything has been like remodeled and refurnished. And for me, that still seems a little suspicious, the fact that they stayed in the same town and he married his brother's widow and they're so happy. Like it still seems really suspicious to me. But I guess really no one really liked Lou, so no one cares. And so they call the police because Lou won't leave the house. The cops get there, and he starts trying to tell them what happened. You know, we faked the death and everything like that, and I ran off and I got surgery done. And the cop, the same cop is just mad. He's just like, Lou Paloma passed away. You should have more respect for the dead and all this stuff. I can't believe this guy. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm Lou Paloma. And they're like, it says your name is so, whatever, Smith and stuff. And so they book him and take him to jail, and they have like a court session because he's trying to determine, which I feel like he would still be able, unless he had his teeth done and everything. I don't know, there's gotta be some way to prove it was him. So they go to court, and the prosecutor is Michael J. Fox. And like it starts out with like his voice, and then they show him later, but like it's kind of cool. Like he's talking to all the different witnesses throughout the episode, the cop, they even bring Paolo in, and he's just like, oh, yes, it was a beautiful sunset. So it's there's a little bit of like humor there, you know. They bring the mother in, Mother Paloma. This pretty much seals the deal. They talk to Irene and everything. And everyone's still claiming that it's not him.
And you insist, Mrs. Paloma, that you do not know the defendant?
The first time I ever saw him, he came to my door claiming to be my late husband.
I'm telling you, I saw my brother dead. I performed his autopsy. That man is a shameless imposter.
So, really, he should have just stayed in Rio. So they bring up Mother Paloma, and they're like, hi, can you show us where your son is? And she turns and points to Lou. And Lou's like, thank you, Mom, yes. But apparently, I guess after Lou died, his mom kind of lost it. So what they also asked her, they're like, well then, who am I, or whatever. And she's like, oh, you're my son, Lou. And they're like, who are you? And she's just like, I am Eleanor Roosevelt. And they're like, okay, yeah, she's gone. So Lou's like, dang it, that was my only chance to figure it out. And so that really dealt it in. So they end up finding him very, guilty. The jury is pretty upset. They find him guilty. And instead of just going in true Tales from the Crypt fashion, he gets the death penalty and gets electrocuted. They ask him like if he has any last words, and they kill him. It always seems to be the chair in Tales from the Crypt. So he's dead. So Irene and Billy go off on a trip to Rio, to the same cabana, and they're there now laughing and having a good time and drinking tropical drinks and so in love and have all this money now, and that's how it ends. So it's kind of like a little more of a comical one a little bit, but it was still fun. Then it cuts back, that's the end of the episode, it cuts back to the Crypt Keeper. He's going through all his files for the insurance and throwing out those puns. Crypt Keeper, you're so punny. And the best Crypt Keeper pun is...
So what do you say? Can I interest you in a policy? The benefits are great, but the screamiums will kill ya.
Get it? Screamiums, like premiums. Oh my gosh, Crypt Keeper, you're so good. And he's laughing. He has a good time with that one. He loves that joke. He's like banging on the table. Really got him. So the episode ends, and that was season 3, episode 3, The Trap. I mean, it's a fun one. You know, it's not like one that really stands out to me, but it's fun. There is a little bit of trivia here from IMDb. Terry Garr and Bruce McGill also appeared in the movie Out Cold together. The director and the prosecutor, Michael J. Fox, previously appeared alongside James Tolkien, who was Sergeant McClane, the cop, in the Back to the Future trilogy. So he was also in the back, they were in that together. The next episode is season 3, episode 4, Abracadaver. That one's a pretty popular episode, so that one's going to be pretty special to get into. Thank you guys so much for listening and your support for the Good Evening Kiddies podcast. If you want to send me an email with any questions or comments, email me at goodeveningpod@gmail.com. There's also a Facebook page if you want to join that. There's a Patreon page. If you donate $1, I will be very thankful. If you donate $2, I will be thankful and also give you a shout out on the podcast. I also like 5-star reviews. So if you have a chance to get over to iTunes and give me a 5-star review there, you can also do reviews, I believe, on the Facebook page. It just really helps me know that you guys are listening. And I thank you for your support. If you could like, share, subscribe, any of that. Again, thank you for listening to the Good Evening Kiddies podcast.
I just had quite a scare. I actually thought my heart was beating again.
Squabble is defined as a noisy quarrel about something petty or trivial. But it's also the name of our podcast. Squabble comes out every Monday.
In each episode, we debate about the world's most pressing issues.
Yeah, like waffles versus pancakes.
Should video games be a sport?
Is Sharpay really a villain?
Find us on iTunes and YouTube, or our website, www.squabblepodcast.com.
This is arguably the best podcast ever.
SquabblePodcast.com.